How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of Misshift. I'm joined by a very special guest. We have Nav's Garage, and that's Nav, not Nav. Nav is the Canadian rapper. Nav is an automotive YouTube channel that kind of blew up in the past few years. I'm going to definitely plug you in the description and everything.
I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Of course, definitely. I appreciate you for coming on. I know you're super busy and, you're doing your own thing. Matter of fact, he just got done recording a new video, so definitely go ahead and check it out.
Always,
yep. Right now, we're going to be talking about 5 non-existing variants of cars that we think automakers should make, and 5 cars that we think should make a comeback. So, as car enthusiasts, we definitely love cars. Like, we love cars that other people might not look at twice, or that some people might not even think about. But I think a mistake that a lot of these automakers make is underestimating the impact of enthusiasts. And obviously there's some enthusiasts out there that just talk about, I would buy this car if it existed, but they don't really have money. But for every one of those, there's like 2 or like 5 people that actually would buy those cars but can't because they don't exist. So,
yep.
With that being said, I really want to hear your list first. We're gonna start out with non-existing variants of cars, and
sure.
So we haven't, full disclosure, we haven't seen each other's lists at first, so I'm gonna be
not at all. Yeah, so I guess, for cars that don't exist at all, so I have something that's kind of been done in the past by a couple of manufacturers that I brought up. But one of the things was, I think Ferrari and Lamborghini need to make new manual cars, right? We saw Koenigsegg do it, and I believe Pagani is now doing another gated manual. And I think that Lamborghini and Ferrari, if not as a complete new car, they need to bring it back in some aspect. Now, I know Lamborghini is going to do the new V12 hybrid, but I think that they could afford to do whatever the Huracan's replacement is. They could afford to do a gated car in some type of way.
Spoiler alert, that's one of my cars too. But yeah,
I
agree 100%. That, they're leaving so much money on the table by doing that. I bet they can make, like a Huracan, for example, they can make a manual version of that and sell it for twice as much, and people would still buy it. And
yeah,
I mean, manuals,
I think
they already exist, so I don't think so much R&D has to be involved to get that in. I really don't know why they don't do that.
People on YouTube take Huracans and gated manuals, swap them. I believe Houston from Royalty Exotics is currently doing a manual swap on his STO, and I believe there's been a couple of people who have done gated Huracan swaps, and I think that Lamborghini hasn't done it since the Murcielago and the Gallardo, which was now a generation and a half ago, 2 generations ago, depending on which way you look at it. It's you look at how much the Mercies have appreciated and how much gated manual, even the R8s and Gallardos have appreciated. I just think that those definitely could be a next thing that they could do and implement, even if it's in a small batch. I would hate to see another, like the new Countach or a Veneno or the Centenario, like the one, like the picture that's behind me. I would hate to see like a limited edition, like 25 or 50 cars come out, but I'd love to see a mass-produced option for the gated cars.
Like, if you look at the used car market, Murcielagos, Gallardos that are manual go for twice as much as the single clutch.
I think Gallardos are going for about a 25% premium. I know a couple of years back they were just about the same before the market really took off, but the Mercies have always been a 25%. I believe now they're even more towards that 50 to maybe even 100 times the price in percentage compared to the normal, just the E-gear cars.
Yeah, and like you could say, well, no one's gonna buy it, but I mean, Porsche, they brought back the manual, the
Exactly.
GT3, and those are like,
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
I believe the take rate for manual is like 80% too. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when people are optioning a Porsche, like for the most part, a lot of the Porsche people have money. So when they're buying a GT3, they say, I might as well get the GT3 in manual, and then whenever an RS comes, that probably won't be optioned in a manual. So I'll just get this in manual, and then the later one without the manual. So it kind of brings that a little bit of the options that they have. But also, if I was buying a GT3 tomorrow, I would look for the manual option, even though the PDK is an amazing choice.
Yeah, cause like, yeah, the PDK is faster, but how many people track the car? First of all, and second of all, like the GT3 RS exists anyway, so you're not gonna be as fast as
Yeah.
that anyway. So you might as well get the more fun one. Also, like
That's always
Toyota, they brought back the manual on the GR Supra, and however you feel about that car, like they brought the manual back from popular demand, and people seem to be buying those as well. So
I mean, we kind of, as enthusiasts, we kind of forced the Supra to bring the manual back. I've driven the DC, or it's not a DCT, it's the ZF8 Auto. I've
right.
driven the new Supra. It's an amazing car and it drives awesome. I hope that I get the opportunity to drive a manual car in the next 6 months or so if they start to hit the market. But, I mean, I would still love to see, even from Ferrari, right? Ferrari's doing the new, like they have the F8. I feel like Ferrari's oversaturated themselves in terms of how many cars they're releasing and how they're releasing their cars. I can't keep up with the cars they're releasing, and I'm an enthusiast. I don't know how
Yeah.
normal people who aren't really enthusiasts are keeping up with all of that, because they have like that new hypercar type thing coming out. They have the F8, I believe, is still in production. They have
They actually discontinued the
the
F8 and
the
they
hype.
replaced it with the 296.
Yeah, did they already replace that?
Yeah, the 296 is the replacement car for that now. The
The,
V6
yeah,
hybrid
with
one.
the V6 hybrid. Yeah, and then they have the SF90, which is also like their thing. So they have so many cars coming out. I feel like they're becoming a little like McLaren-like in terms of there's a new car popping up
Yeah,
way too soon. Ferrari is also like they're doing different cars. They're different trims. They're different. As McLaren would say, they're different competitions, right? So McLaren had the Senna, the P1, which were like their ultimate series, and then they had the 600 LT, the 675, and then the 765. They came up with so many cars so fast, appreciated like crazy.
yep.
Coming into their new cars, since they are trying something new with the V6 hybrid, what if they put a gated manual in that?
I don't see why not.
I
Especially
mean,
like if no one else is making manual and then McLaren makes manual. People are
McLaren. I don't know if McLaren has ever made a manual because the F1 is the only manual car I can think of.
yeah.
But I think BMW made their transmission, if I'm not wrong.
No, it's a ZF sourced. Well, I'm sure
Was it
McLaren can outsource the manual transmission too.
100%? I'm sure they could
Yeah.
go to anyone they wanted to and get them to make a manual transmission. I mean, Mercedes is another one of those companies that, I mean, they don't do gated, obviously, but I don't believe they've made a manual transmission since the early 2010s, if not that.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so I feel like Mercedes, the AMG GTS, right? Not the GTR, not the GTR Pro, not even the Black Series. The GTS had a manual in it. How many more people would have bought that car, or how many more people would have be inclined to buy that car? That I would want to buy, but when I compare it to other cars in the price point, sub 100,000 at one point, it didn't have a manual, and it kind of missed that for me. Even though the automatic might be awesome.
Well, I don't want to rant about manuals for too long,
Yeah,
so let's
yeah.
move.
We can go over to my next point I have here. So, I guess a complaint I've seen online a little bit about BMW has been BMW doesn't have a supercar or a hypercar, and I think they missed the ball with the i8. Right? How BMW would do it. Their newer styling is weird. Their newer cars coming out are weird. I like some of them, but M variants, in my opinion, are very odd looking. I think BMW needs to make a new M1 or a new supercar that's named something completely different.
What do you think about an i8 with the inline six, with like a S55, or even an
That's
or S58 rather?
I thought about that. The one thing I don't like about the i8 is that it had rear seats and the back end didn't make sense to me. I think if they took the i8, the idea that they had behind the i8, and then completely transformed it into, like, for example, what Chevy did with the new C8 Z06. Imagine if they take the Z06's idea of copying the 458 and then taking the i8's ideas that they had in terms of what they planned for it, bringing those together, and then putting M8 or M5 CS level performance in it.
I mean, they already designed like the i8 is a carbon tub,
Yeah.
not supercar. I want to say supercar, but the performance really doesn't match up.
Yeah, the i8 would have been a supercar if it had performance, but that's the one thing that it just always lacked, in my opinion. Or just not even in my opinion. I guess that's just the one thing it lacked by definition of a supercar.
Yeah, yeah. BMW should have a supercar. I didn't even think about that, but that's facts.
Yeah, I mean, BMW is kind of like one of my favorite brands that I've followed for such a long time. So it's always been the complaint I see is like they don't have now. AMG has the new Project One, which is the hypercar, and then they have the new GT Black series. But we're not seeing BMW put, Nürburgring level lap times, or we haven't seen that in the last 10 years. And I feel like BMW does an amazing job at everything else, but they need that one like
The Halo
kind of the Halo car. Exactly. That's the word I was looking for. They need a Halo car other than the M8, the M5, the M3, because those are amazing cars. But as a kid looking at it, you want to have kind of a thing that's like, wow.
Yeah, Audi R8 too. Yeah, it's like everybody else has a supercar other than BMW. I'm not sure what they're doing.
Yeah, or at least something to that category.
Yeah.
So the next one, I guess we can kind of move on from that one. There's not too much there. The next one I have is a 919 Spider from Porsche, like a new 918, I guess. But I hope this is never going to happen. The concept and idea that I had is they take a 8, or they take a flat 12, probably isn't going to happen, but they've done flat 12s and flat 8s in their race cars. Imagine they bring that technology over. They do that with a hybrid system and replace the 918 with a flat 8 hybrid car that is going to like go out and set every single lap record everywhere.
Has anyone made a flat 8 before? I wonder what that would.
They have. They have, yeah. They've made the flat 8 and the flat 12s. They were in the race cars. They were in the 912K, I believe, was a flat 12. And then I forget what the flat 8 was, but they sound pretty gnarly. It has a V8 rumble to it, but then when it gets revved up, it kind of sounds like not like an American V8 whatsoever.
Like a flat plane crank V8?
No, just no. They don't. They sound really odd. I guess I don't really know how to describe it. And just like they have the rumble and the idle of a V8, like an American V8. But then once they're kind of revved up, they sound a little like F1 car-y.
I'd have to listen to one to find
Yeah.
out. I didn't even think.
The flat 12 sounds amazing.
Oh, I know what a flat 12 sounds like. Like it's like
Yeah,
a
so-
Testarossa type thing. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Take if you ever get after we're done with this, listen to the Porsche flat 8 and flat 12 race cars. They sound insane.
Yeah, I had to check that
But
out.
imagine they took some of that older technology and then brought it to a new 919 or a new kind of thing to say to one up, I guess, Mercedes. I'm sure they're already working on it, and I know there's a rumor of them working on it to destroy Mercedes in some type of way, but I guess we'll kind of see how that happens.
Yeah, I think it's about time we have new hypercars too, because, you know, they are.
We've had a couple good ones, but not from the brands that we know them from, I guess. Like Koenigsegg, Pagani's. I don't know if you consider the new Utopia hypercar or not. We don't know performance levels. The Aston Martin made the Vulcan, which was really cool.
The Vulcan's not a street car,
So,
though.
no, it's not. I believe the
Are you thinking about the
Vulcan and there's
Valkyrie?
the Valkyrie, right? Neither one of those are street cars. The Vulcan's a full race car. The Valkyrie, I believe it's going to come into the U.S. as a show and display car.
Oh, that's disappointing. I thought it'd be a street car.
Yeah, because even the Speedtail is a show and display car, and even the project, the AMG One is a show and display car. They're not legal on the streets in the U.S.
What's the point? What's the point
Yeah.
of having a show and display car?
Yeah, you get to drive them on the streets for like 50 miles or something like that, like a year or something. So you can get away with driving it on the streets, but you're supposed to.
That's wild. The fact that they would make a car, this is new to me. I didn't know this. The fact that they would make a car that can only be shown, that's like made for garage queens, that's wild.
Like Manny Koshbin's like Speedtail that he has, technically can only drive it on the streets a couple of times a year. McLaren did the Speedtail, and is when they made the Project One, they did everything they could, but they never passed U.S. regulations. I believe overseas they're street legal, though.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I guess we can move on. Yeah, we can move on to my fourth one, which is a new kind of 240, like a S16 in some type of way, something like that. I feel like the new Z came in at a very aggressive price point, and even the new GTR, when it comes out, if they ever do decide to do a new GTR, but even the current GTR with the facelift, I believe that's going to be over $100,000 when it hits the US.
yeah.
Z comes in at near $40,000 with like after taxes and everything. So a lot of money for a car. I mean, nowadays, given everything's gotten up there, but like 180 in Japan or new 240 and closer towards that GR, like that GR86 BRZ, something to kind of rival those cars from Nissan would be really interesting.
Is Nissan still with Mercedes?
I don't think so. I don't think that they are.
Infinity, rather.
Well, I think they still own it.
Because I was going to say, like, this is, like, it's very possible because they already have a Turbo 4 and they already have the manual.
Yeah, I mean, they would probably do something naturally aspirated because I think Turbo, in terms of those Turbo, like, VQ, no, they're not VQs, they're VRs, which is in the new Z. Those are probably pretty expensive to make. So even putting some type of new VQ technology into those cars would be interesting to kind of see how they do and how they would fare against cheaper sports cars like the Miata, even though I think the Miata is pretty up there in price right now.
It's expensive for what it is.
I'm pretty sure they're...
If I was Nissan and I was making that type of car, I would do like a Hyundai Genesis Coupe type of thing, where the base motor is like a 4-cylinder turbo, and the upgrade is like a VQ35 or a VQ37 if that's still a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could bring back whatever they wanted, as long as the thing still pass emissions and whatnot. But it would be interesting to see Nissan play more into the sports car thing. I feel like I made this video probably a year and a half ago, before Toyota started coming out with all of their new sports cars, and Honda, like how Japanese brands are kind of dying with the sports car stuff. Toyota came back and then said, yeah, right, and then made a ton of sports cars.
Yeah. Toyota of all people, too.
Yeah, I feel like Toyota needed it. I always loved Toyota. I was thinking about this today. Out of all the Japanese brands, Toyota's probably the one that I would pick keep out of all of them, and I'm very happy to see them back and do some of those sports cars that they've done in the past, or even new sports cars like the Yaris, like the new GR Yaris, which didn't make it here, but we got the GR Corollas, even though they're limiting those productions and stuff like that. But I'm happy to see that they're doing it to force those other Japanese brands to start do stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Toyota. Yeah, I always had a thing for Toyota too. They're definitely my favorite of all the Japanese.
Yeah, I mean, like the Supra is such a solid platform. And then they went away. They made the comeback, which was great. Then I mean, they have a couple of other ones. I have some of those. I have one of those. I don't want to say what it is for the next list, but
Okay.
it's definitely fun to see them bring it back.
Mm. Okay. Well, I can't wait to get to that. So, what's your wait? You said this was
There's
your
one more.
So you did a manual Ferrari, then you did
The BMW supercar, the 919, and then like an S16 from Nissan or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
And then I got my fifth one, which would be a trim of the Mustang they haven't since the S197, which is the Boss 302 trim, or a Boss Mustang trim in some type of way. We see the new Dark Horse come out. That's a Mach 1 level trim. We have the new GT, we have the new EcoBoost. They need something that's a little retro-y in terms of the new Tesla screens. I feel like are a little too much. It'd be cool to see them do something retrofitted to the S550 generation with dash and everything. I know it's kind of like a hard thing to do for them, but they need to have the Boss 302 trim back, or the Boss trim level back, and I feel like it could be something that would be comparable to a GT. So instead of getting a normal GT, you would get the Boss. Even it'd be like a graphics pack, maybe slight differences in the exhaust system, just very small tweaks, but something a little more different than everything else. Because now, when older generation, the S197 generation came out, there were so many different versions of it where all the cars looked different. Then the S550 came, all of the Mustangs are kind of very similar.
Mm. Can I ask a stupid question?
What's that?
Can I ask a stupid question?
Sure.
What did the Boss do? What was the difference between the Boss 302 versus like a GT? I'm no Mustang expert. I forget
Yeah,
like
I
what
mean,
they did to it. Is it like more power?
I think they had more power in them. I mean, I don't want to speak on something I don't really know too much about. I probably should have looked into a little bit more, but I know my friend's dad used to have one, or my brother's friend's dad used to have one. I believe that they changed a couple of things in the internals of the motor, and I believe they put a bigger intake on the top of it. So it'd be cool to see them do something similar to that again, but maybe somehow retrofit it back to some of the older Boss cars and kind of give it a little bit of a heritage look to it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that would make a lot more sense because not everyone's a fan of how the new Mustang looks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I made a video a couple days ago on why I'm honestly probably going to skip on it and I'm just going to keep my car because it's a little too list as far as everything goes in terms of like the screens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not for everyone.
Yeah. I can see why people like it, but I just don't.
It kind of looks... I don't know. It looks the same to me almost.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's just those three screens just don't do it for me.
I don't know. I forget what the interior looks like offhand, but
It,
it just
it's
looks like
like
a modern
identical to the
Mustang.
S550 almost.
Mm.
That's why I said it's the new generation feels like a facelift compared to like an actual new generation.
Yeah, it feels like just another facelift, which I think it is, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just a
I mean, I'm just happy they kept to the V8 and all of that, but I was expecting more.
For me personally, like the S650, I think they kind of played it safe, but it works.
Yeah,
Cause
no, I agree.
Yeah, because I feel like if they did something crazy, like people would freak out. I think they did just enough to keep people happy.
Yeah, like I mean, it's not a bad car by any means. That 650, it looks good. The interior looks good. Other than the screens, I'm not the biggest fan of. The power plant is awesome. They kept the MT82, unfortunately, which I wish they changed out, as
Yeah.
I've experienced some problems with mine. But also, just I don't like how they drive. But it's a small change, I guess.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to my list?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so these are five cars that exist, but variants of it that don't exist. So, so the Ferrari 296 GTB manual. We already talked about Ferrari and manual, so I'm not gonna do that
Yeah,
again.
sure.
So I also have a Porsche 911 GT3 Targa, which I
Okay.
know kind of is counterintuitive. Excuse me, counterintuitive because a GT3 is supposed to be as lightweight as possible. But I
Yeah.
don't know. For me personally, like I really like the Targa version of the 911. Like the whole roof. I don't know. I just geek about that. And having an open top experience with that motor, I think
Yeah. No.
that would be more
Yeah.
popular than we even think.
Yeah, it'd definitely be something. I mean, there's so many trims of the 911 where I feel like if they added another one, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. But something like that definitely could make like some waves in terms of the people buying them and people who would want to get them and be one of those things. I guess Porsche would have to like think whether it be one of those cars that would be marked over sticker or whether it be one of those cars that they would start selling to their customers in order to promise them allocations, which I feel like it'd be the latter, unfortunately.
Yeah, but either way, it
But
certainly
the
it wouldn't hurt them because they just have to mix and match different parts, honestly. And I forget which
yeah,
episode, but I listened to just one episode of the Smoking Tire podcast, and somebody, I guess they must have knew some people from Porsche or something like that, and they had a custom made 911 Targa with a GT3 RS motor. So
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen that.
yeah, so somebody out there wants it. Like tens of people want it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool concept, and again, Porsche already makes so many trims. I feel like them doing something like that, be something possible for sure.
I would say 50 people would buy it. At
I
least.
mean, I mean, if they only made 50 cars, they could probably charge like 400,000
Oh
and sell
yeah.
out immediately.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You gotta hype
You
it
gotta
up. You
limit.
gotta make it seem like it's
You gotta
limited
limit them.
production. So,
Yeah, and then come out with them the next year and be like, all right, we got
yep.
50 more.
Yep. Just pull a 911R. Okay, so for
Yeah,
my
yeah.
next car, I think you're really gonna like this one. So, Toyota GR86 Sedan.
Ooh, that is one thing I've thought of.
Mm.
Um,
It would work though
I don't know.
because how many people
It
buy
would.
used like E46s and um like what's it called or even import like Skyline sedans from Japan and they spend as much money as like a GR86 depending on the condition of it anyway because like there's no new car that you can get that's rear wheel drive that's manual that's cheap.
I feel like the closest thing would be the Honda SI, but that's front wheel drive, obviously. But I feel like
Yeah.
that's the closest thing that we kind of get in terms of like that segment. So it would definitely be something that it would be something that sells, but I don't know how it would compete with the Corolla. Like they have that Apex Pack car, even though it's not rear wheel drive, it's probably front wheel drive because it's a Corolla. But I feel like they don't want to compete with themselves because they already have that small packed car sedan market capitalized really well.
They need to get rid of the Corolla Apex. Bro, what's the
They
point?
do
It's the
because that
same
one's called
motor
the
and
86.
it's just an appearance
86
package more than
badge.
anything else.
Exactly. I mean, the same thing with the TRD Camry. I believe that's a very appearance pack car. There might be a couple differences in terms of like exhaust, I believe, but they need to these TRD cars. They need to start adding performance.
Well, they have bigger brakes and they have suspension. Even the
They
TRD
do,
is
yeah.
more than the Apex, but they're not
It
really
is,
selling the
yeah.
TRDs like that.
No, but I think they could sell them if, because I mean the GR cars are fantastic. The TRD cars are a little, because
The
I think they could have done a better job with the TRD Camry. Just did a little bit more and got rid of front wheel drive.
Yeah, but they had to make a whole new platform though if they want to get rid of
They would,
front
yeah.
wheel drive.
They would, yeah. I mean, I get it. They want to sell more cars. They want to make them look a little sporty. So it did the job. But I can't remember if Toyota in the past, 86, like in the 90s or 80s, if they made a sedan or not. I think they did.
They definitely had a rear drive Corolla sedan at one point, because at one point all Corollas were rear wheel drive, and then
Yeah.
they got to a point where like the coupes are rear wheel drive, but the sedans and the wagons were front drive. I believe. Anyway,
Yeah.
if I'm not wrong.
I think you're right. I think it would make some competition for the SI, Pacific SI, and if it was rear wheel drive, I think people would start leaning that way more. For example, like my Lexus IS250 came in rear wheel drive. That was a fantastic car, and people look for those cars now in rear wheel drive to have fun with them and swing them, and because they're a little sporty. It's not the fastest car in the world, but it's fun because it's not front wheel drive.
And they had a manual version too.
Yeah, they did. They did.
There was that. There was you can get a G37 manual. Although that was like the top
Yep.
trim. You can get like a 325i. You used to get like a 325 or like a 328i manual. And now those are all
Yeah, you could get
gone.
you could get like the 350. Was it 355D? I believe as well for a very short period in time in the States.
Oh, like the 335D, the diesel like.
Yeah.
You can get that in
Yeah.
manual.
Yeah, you can. It was a very short. They're very rare. I'm pretty sure there's only a couple hundred of them in the States, but available.
I didn't know that. I don't know. I feel like, because the other thing about making a GR86 sedan is to extend the length of a car that's already existing is not that much money. It's not as much as widening it or changing the height. Just the length, like extend the wheelbase.
Yeah.
I think that would be a hit. I think if anything, they'll sell more of those than the coupes.
I mean, the coupe is it's such a niche market.
Yeah.
Sedan, and it hits a completely different market, and it can hit multiple niches at the same time.
Yeah. But hey man, that's just me though. GR86 sedan. So next, I have another one. I have another Toyota GR product. Toyota
Sure.
GR Prius. Hear me out. So, take a regular you seen the new Prius, right?
I've thought about getting one.
Dude, this so sick for a Prius. So you take that,
Yeah.
you give it the GR treatment with like the aesthetics, the suspension, and everything like that. Take the motor from a Lexus RX 500H, so the 2.4 turbo with like the hybrid system and the 6-speed auto. Put it in there. You can detune it to a little bit as long as it makes over 300 horsepower. I think, because not only would that be different, but now you're gonna have a hybrid that competes with like the fast EVs, like a Model 3 Performance or like a Polestar 2 Performance, but at a way lower price point, slightly lower power point, but people are more familiar with Prius than Tesla, or definitely more familiar with that than Polestar.
I feel like instead of taking the motor from the Lexus, they take the existing 3-cylinder and they give it the treatment they gave the GR Corolla, and they add a hybrid system on top of that, and then probably detune it a little bit so it doesn't make 300 horsepower and competes with the GR Corolla market, but maybe like 250 horsepower with the hybrid assist.
I would like that too. If they were to make a GR Prius, they would most likely do the RX 500 just because that's the path of least resistance. It's already made it to a hybrid system. It's already Atkinson cycle engine.
Well,
But
the new Prius already has the GR Corolla motor. It just doesn't have a turbo on it.
oh, really?
The new 3-cylinder that's in the GR Corolla is Toyota's new base motor for all of their vehicles, and
Is
then
it
they
actually?
turboed it, and yeah, it's already existing. That's why I brought it up.
Oh, I mean, a 3-cylinder and a turbo with a hybrid, that would be way cooler than a 4-cylinder.
Yeah, because it already exists with the hybrid system. They'd have to figure out a way to get the turbo and the additional power, and then detuning that power to make sure it doesn't compete with the GR Corolla.
Hmm. Yeah. Either way, a GR Prius, like, now is a better time than ever. Oh yeah, and by the way, make it all-wheel drive, and not only that, but have twin rear electric motors, so you have torque vectoring.
Yeah, I think at that point it get too expensive though. That's what I was thinking about. If you have it if you still keep it front wheel drive, it retains some of that Honda Civic Si like I was talking about before, or even because they don't want to compete with their own GR Corolla all-wheel drive car. Because I feel like once you do all-wheel drive, then it becomes, why would I buy the GR Corolla when I could buy a GR Prius that gets better gas mileage and has just as much power and performance?
It'll be for a couple reasons. Like, the GR Prius would have to be an automatic still, because it's a
That's also
hybrid.
true. Yeah. I didn't think about that.
So manual with the GR Corolla, plus it'll be smaller, and it would still probably be higher performance because it's a lighter weight car, and that type of thing. Also, like, as far as it being more expensive, Toyota, they actually, like, in the all-wheel drive Siennas, and I believe the all-wheel drive Highlander hybrids, because the Sienna's a hybrid only now. They have a triple electric motor setup, but they have 2 electric motors at the front instead of at the back. And they should have put those 2 electric motors at the back.
That's kind of what new Hummer EV, I believe, is a tri-motor, if I'm not wrong. Or maybe the Cybertruck was supposed to be a tri-motor. It was the Cybertruck was supposed to have the tri. It was 2 in the back, 1 in the front. And then,
yeah, that's the best way to do it. So you have torque vectoring at the rear, but I don't know. I guess Toyota.
But they're trying to keep it more economical instead of performance, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, it's a minivan. It would have made more sense anyways, but Toyota.
It wouldn't hurt because, like, either way, you're gonna get the same fuel economy, but you're just moving that power to the back, and you're gonna make it handle better.
Yep.
Yeah, they should have. I don't know. Sometimes. Okay. Anyway, so my next car is the Alfa Romeo Giulia and Stelvio. Have a V6 variant of it that's below the Quadrifoglio, but above the Veloce, like the 4-cylinder one. So, like, have it like 350 to like 400 horsepower, like, M340i / BMW X3 M40i competitor. Because for whatever reason, they don't have a car that bridges that gap.
I know they just came out with 2 new crossover SUVs. Alfa's one of those brands that I haven't really got into because I never see them around. So I know about the new kind of that they've started to do, but I don't know enough to really speak on it.
Yeah, they came out with the Tonale, which is a Dodge Hornet clone. That's like front-wheel drive. But
yeah. I just don't see enough from them. Since we're on I wish they bring back something like the 4C that they had, because I love that car, and it feels like something's kind of missing from Alfa in terms of that realm.
They didn't sell enough 4Cs, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think they did. They sat on the markets a lot.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why is like if I'm being honest, a 4C is kind of ghetto. Like the interior. They don't even have. They have like a Pioneer radio or something like that. It's some aftermarket looking whatever. Yeah, and
Yeah,
for how much money they are. Oh yeah, and they have like a Dodge Dart Source DCT, so they're kind of ghetto.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, they could have done a. I like the car. It looked a lot like a Lotus. I think it might have even been a Lotus Tub, if we're honest. I think they sourced something from Lotus, from what I remember. I might be wrong, but
Possibly.
I think the tub was from Lotus.
If it is, I wouldn't know, but I know it's a carbon tub. Yeah,
Yeah,
the 4C is
I
super
mean,
cool, but an Elise is probably better, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, we don't see a lot of Lotus or Alpha, like honestly, in the U.S., especially around here. I mean, I probably saw one or two Lotus last year, and I live next to Road America. I don't think I can tell you the last time I saw Alpha. Maybe I just don't notice them because it's like the Alpha SUVs that I don't really care for all too much. But
Yeah.
I don't see people buying them like on YouTube. I don't see people like talking about them. I don't see enough enthusiasm behind them, which I think it's on them in terms of their marketing.
I still see a couple alphas where I'm at. They're not especially uncommon, but it's just like I said. Like I feel like part of the reason they don't sell as many is because you got the base model, and then you got the quadrifoglio, and there's like no in
Yeah,
between. There's no M340i.
yeah,
There's no Audi S4 type version, and if they had that, I bet they would sell a lot more of them,
yeah.
or at least incremental, and they would sell. I don't know. It would be better.
It's yeah. I feel like if they did if they entered something like that, it might start take off something.
Yeah, but I digress. I mean, when I was personally like when I was shopping for cars last year, I considered the Giulia, but part of the reason why I didn't get it is because it was like if it wasn't a quadrifoglio, it was gonna be a 4-cylinder version, and it was like, do I really want a 4-cylinder? So I ended up getting a Volvo S60 T6 instead.
Volvo's
That's an
always
inline
solid.
six. What was that?
Yeah, Volvo's always solid to go with. I don't know too much about the older ones, but I was kind of when the Bronco didn't come and I had no idea when it would be arriving. Started to look into SUVs and kind of the price point, and the newer Volvos are really cool.
Yeah, I'm personally not a fan of the newer ones because I mean, as much as I love how they look and as much as I love the interiors, I feel like they dropped the ball with the powertrain. I like the inline 5 and the inline, especially the inline 6, a lot better than the 4s that they're using now. Plus, they're not that much more efficient.
It's definitely like definitely really appealing because they're hybrids. It's one of the only real hybrid type vehicles, luxury. It's a very odd kind of area that they're in. I mean, like they're priced at a luxury SUV price. They're bigger. They have hybrid systems. The only thing I can really think of that's on level with that is Mercedes might have something. They probably went fully electric with like a G-Wagon or something like that, even though that's more expensive. And then there's the Aviator, which is also more expensive.
Yeah, Volvo's they feel like a niche area very well.
Yeah.
I'll give them that.
Yep.
But I digress. That's a totally different topic. Oh yeah, I should also mention that an honorable mention is the Lexus LCF. Like if they were to put a twin turbo on the 5-liter V8 and
Yeah.
upgrade the suspension and everything, it would give that car the sort of performance car pedigree that it was kind of missing this entire time. Because
I love that car regardless,
LC500 is
though.
not that quick. Even though it sounds
No, it's not.
amazing, they're not that quick.
It's not. No, I love the car. I think they're around 480 horsepower still.
Yeah, 472. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love those cars though, but
They're
how
a
much
little
they cost.
expensive. Yeah, exactly. They're a little expensive for what they are.
Yeah.